Breaking right now, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to block an order that it bring back a Maryland migrant deported to El Salvador. Over the weekend, a federal judge called the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia wholly lawless and a grievous error, and ordered that he be returned by midnight tonight. But despite that order, the Trump administration is sticking by its actions. Attorney General Pam Bondi, she had this to say on Fox News on Sunday.
ICE has testified, members of ICE, that he is an MS-13 gang member. And the defense, his lawyers, have argued, well, he should be here because he was studying to be an electrician.
Okay, let's bring in CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen live in Washington for us. Jake, now the battle over this mistaken deportation could be in the hands of the Supreme Court. What happens to the deadline that the judge had set?
That's right, Mugo. It is in the hands of the Supreme Court. The Fourth Circuit of Appeals here and right outside D.C. in Maryland has denied a request by the Department of Justice to stay that order, which would have allowed more time to play out and given the government more time to return him. The panel said that the United States government has no legal authority to snatch a person who is lawfully present in the United States off the street and remove him from the country without due process. We know that the deadline is still in place by midnight tonight to have Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was taken and deported to El Salvador despite an immigration judge's order demanding that he cannot be deported to that country, but he can be deported to other countries. That deadline is still in place, 11:59 tonight. We will see what happens. The Supreme Court has an opportunity to weigh in at the last minute here. However, there was no argument from the Fourth Circuit. There was, and we saw on Friday, a Department of Justice attorney who argued that case was put on administrative leave because he was sympathetic and sided with the facts that this man should not have been deported, and said that aloud in court.
Wow. CBS News is also learning about another man who was also taken to that same prison in El Salvador, in the middle, by the way, of seeking asylum. So what do we know about this second man?
That's right. This is a gay man who lived in Venezuela and came to the United States to attempt to seek asylum. And we know that he claimed that in Venezuela, because of his gender and sexual identity, that he was very likely to be persecuted for that and potentially face consequences as a result of that. And we know that at least an immigration court had the initial steps, according to this man's attorney, of accepting that argument that he was here and would have been granted asylum potentially. Certainly more to come on a lot of these cases that we've covered here at CBS News. The big thing, though, to remember is that all of these cases that we've been talking about, at least in the case of Venezuelan deportations, came on March 15th. And that's those three flights at the center of three different court cases now, in which the administration appears to have rushed people onto these planes without doing their due diligence in deporting people that could be A, deported there legally, and B, had actually had due process, or at least have been properly accused of and litigated to be actually gang members, instead of just looking at tattoos, which, at least in the case of these two men that we've been talking about, Mugo, it appears that they looked at what they were wearing at the time of the arrest, some confidential sourcing, and looking at tattoos, and accused them of being Trinidad-Aragua or MS-13 as a result of that.
Wow. Jake, let's talk about the latest on shrinking the government. The Trump administration is eyeing closing down a landmark department dating back to the civil rights era. What do we know about this case?
Right, and we know that this is the Department of Community Relations Service. This is something that was civil rights era department built within the Department of Justice to kind of go into areas where there's really high concentration of civil unrest, to go and provide some kind of community relief and engagement that doesn't just involve police and law enforcement, even going into places like we know in places, I just want to make sure we're correct here,
of course,
after Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd in Minnesota, that's the kind of situation where there are mass protests, there's rioting, to go into these communities. After Rodney King in Los Angeles, the same kind of thing. This department is being closed, or at least the initial steps are being closed, according to our colleague Scott McFarlane's reporting, and that really there's a worry that without this, when this does happen again, not if, what happens, and are there steps to de-escalate and calm situations? This was at least one federal arm to kind of go in and do that. We know that there's obviously local and state level situations that happen often, right, where there is some kind of government intervention without military, without heavily armed police that's required.
All right, Jake Rosen, thank you so much for your reporting.